Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Average FPL. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to look at my Game Week 1 team, and I'm going to try and explain my decisions and why I think, as always, at the start of FPL, that this team is going to win the whole thing, because that's what I always think. I always think, I've got the players, how can this team not win it? Obviously, that never happens and is probably never going to happen. But I think this year, normally in previous years, I tend to go for picks that I want to do well rather than they're definitely going to do well. So the players that, I think, I really like that player. It'd be great if they score rather than, I think they're genuinely going to score lots of points. So that being said, in a previous video, what I explained was that I'd like to go with two goalkeepers from the same team and not to invest too much money in them. So I've decided to go with both Watford goalkeepers, Foster and Bachmann. And at the moment, you don't really know which one's going to play and which one's not. So I think having both really covers that option of one of them potentially being benched and missing out on keeper points. They're playing for a newly promoted team, but Watford had quite a solid defence last year, and they're going to get lots of opportunities to make saves. And if Watford keep a clean sheet, then they're probably going to be in those bonus points. So, going into the defence, I've got a 4 million player as my third sub in the defence. Ended up going for triple Watford. Unintentionally, just thought I would get a 4 million player in there. What I've done is I've tried to pick players from 4 teams there that I think will do well. The teams will do well, and that way, if a team like Man City or Man United has a good run of fixtures later in the season, it's very easy for me to get a double up on their defence. Same with Arsenal and Everton, really, but there's a real focus on Man City and Man United there to make the double up easy using minimal transfers and limit the hits later on in the season. All of my defenders are fullbacks, attacking fullbacks. They will get opportunities to have attacking contributions in a game, assists, maybe not goals, but players like Digne and maybe even Shaw will be on some set pieces, maybe from further out. So they have those opportunities to get the assists as well, and all 4 defences are quite likely to get some clean sheets, I would like to think. Moving on to the midfield. So I've got a couple of big hitters in there in Salah and Fernandes, and normally I kind of stay away from the big hitters early on. I like to maybe spread the funds out a bit more, but this year I've thought, these 2 players are probably the 2 main players at the moment in Fantasy League, especially with Kane's situation being a bit unsure. So, I previously last year I got so far behind early on, it was really quite difficult to make up that ground, and I never made up as much ground as I wanted to. So this season, I'm really looking for a strong start. So not only do I think they're going to do well, they're also very highly owned. So it means that if I'm going to score those points, or if they score lots of points, I'm not going to miss out on them. We'll go into captaincy in a minute, but we'll just finish the midfield. Jota, I think, has a good chance of getting minutes early on. And I think Buendia is going to be the main focal point of Aston Villa's midfield. Now Grealish has gone. Now he's got a potential knock, but I feel like he will probably come through that. If not, I'll go into the bench in a little bit, but I feel like I've got good cover on the bench as well, just in case. Strikers, I've got Wilson and Calvert-Lewin. With Tony on the bench. Tony's playing Arsenal, so that's why I've maybe just not gone for him yet, but I still think there's a chance he could score, hence why he's on the first bench option. Newcastle and Everton have some really good fixtures early on, and I think Calvert-Lewin is probably the most underrated option up front per value at the moment. So I think they could really get off to some strong starts, get those goals. And the other bench player I've not talked about, Mbuemo, I think he's a very creative player for Brentford, and he also, from what I can gather, is quite involved in a lot of their creative moves. And Ivan Toney scored a lot last year. It's obviously difficult to predict whether that's going to translate into the Premier League. He will probably score less than he scored last season, but it's a bit like if Brentford are going to score, it will go through him. I think he's also on penalties as well. I think a lot of his goals last year were penalties, so that will go down. But if Brentford do get a penalty, he'll be taking them. In terms of captaincy for this week, I'm thinking of Salah with Fernandez's vice. I just think Salah playing Norwich, is the obvious choice. And in my video with the 5 top tips to get a good start, I said, captain the obvious choice. Salah's the obvious choice. I don't need to overthink it. I don't need to try and be clever and get maybe a differential captain. Not at this stage of the season. You just want to genuinely go for that player that you think is going to score the most points. And in this team, or any player in FPL at the moment, Salah will be that guy. So I'm going to captain Salah for this week. I'll make a video after the weekend before next week to analyze how it's gone and how many of these picks ended up being mistakes and how many didn't play. But as this moment in time, I feel like this is a really good, solid team to begin the season with. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. I'd be interested to know if anyone has any thoughts on this team and how it's looking, and if you'd make any changes and what your team's looking like for this start of the season. But yeah, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.